Hey, I am Skeptical Spectrum, and this is.
I'm Karen. I'm a Karen who cares.
So, yeah, don't be harshing on her, being mean to her. So, what happened today is we're talking about we were going to go out and do stuff, and I was coming out of a building.
And I called him up. I said, let's go grocery shopping together.
Let's go. Well,
And
actually,
I
we.
was in a different car
Yeah, we're.
going
So,
with him.
I was going to meet her at Aldi's. I did Tai Chi, and then I went to a building to do something, and then I came out of the building, and there was a guy there. And a lot of times when I come out of that building, sometimes there are people there and they are probably going to ask you for money or something like that. So this person was like that, and I just wasn't really in a mood to ignore the guy for some reason. I know it sounds silly. It sounds like maybe to some people you should never ignore somebody over there that might be asking you for money or something like that. But this time I just didn't feel like ignoring him. So I went right up to him, and he was hovering around my car. And I said, "Hey, how are you?" And he told me a story, and he's just trying to get back up to Tallahassee, and he's walking all that way. And Karen and I had that's the part you were just talking about. We had gone out separately together to do things, and you were going to go to Aldi, so we both decided to make it an Aldi date before this all happened. And so then I show up with the guy in
So
my
I pull
car.
up. This is the funny part. So I pull up into the Aldi's parking lot and I look over and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting t shirt. I was looking at this
The
guy
guy in my passenger seat.
and I'm thinking, I wonder, that's a really interesting. And it turns out
It
that
turned
was
that
Jim.
was me sitting next to him. He was a tall African American gentleman, and he wanted to probably get a ride. I told him we're going to Aldi. Can I just buy you some bananas and bring you out some bananas too? I wasn't sure what to do. I thought you'd never have some stranger get in your car, but again, it was just all so fluid, and I was so tired
And you
that
trusted your gut.
I did trust my gut, and I'd been tired of ignoring homeless people for a while. Usually, I give them money, and I think I'm right.
Me too.
I think that gives them a better chance to get on their feet economically. So if you don't believe that, I think you're wrong.
And I think this guy was really a walking microcosm of all the things that are wrong with our society and how we don't take care of one another.
Yeah, yeah,
And I honored that Jim did this. And we,
yeah.
we went in there
So
together.
then he came in with us. We said, "You want to come in and help us shop because some of it's for you." So
So we're
that's what
going, and he's
happened.
like, oh, I'm glad because I just need to cool down. Because it must have
Yes.
been like 96
Yeah,
degrees
you know
outside.
that it's getting hot.
And he's sweating and all of this. And
And he'd
so,
been sweating for days. I have
so,
allergies, so I didn't notice any bad smells or anything.
so,
Well, it's true. Are you laughing at my allergies?
so we're cleaning the
See what
car right
happens to
now, but
people with
that's another
allergies?
story. So
Okay.
anyway, so we go down the aisles and we're like talking to him,
Yeah.
just like a normal person that you
Yeah.
would go shopping with. What do you want to eat? What do you want? Because I didn't want to like
Right. It started with
get
like,
him something that I wanted to give
can
him.
we get you a ready? Well, he mentioned a sandwich. I mentioned something else, but when he said sandwich, I was like, oh yeah, they have ready-made sandwiches in there, and they have Gatorade, so that'll be good because you need electrolytes and all that jazz. He wandered off without us for a while, but he was looking for that stuff. He found out there wasn't any,
Yeah.
except for the Gatorade we did find later, but we preferred to get him. So he preferred something else.
Turns out he's a diabetic. So
Yeah,
when we're in the line with the Gatorade, he's like, "Oh, I want some of that," because it was
yeah. Oh,
sugar-free Diet Coke.
he went to
And
get
we're like,
sugar-free Diet
"Okay."
Coke, and he got a Sprite. They didn't have any sugar-free Sprite, but we put away that. It was better for all of us to put away the Gatorade and everything like that. So
So I made him a sandwich in the parking lot at the end of the whole. We bought a whole bunch of
she made us
ham
both
and
sandwiches. I got one too. No,
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 you got one
no. I
later.
just ate one.
so
I told you I'm not really
so
having it
anyway,
today.
this poor guy, I'm thinking,
He told us stories, and you don't know
I
if the
didn't
stories
believe
are
it.
true, but they might be true.
Maybe I think parts of the story were
But
true.
I mean, people have horrible lives, and sometimes maybe they'll tell that story for the rest of their life, especially if they have the agenda that they need to find rides and food and shelter on a constant
So here's a
basis.
guy, and he's living out of his backpack and willing, no car, nothing, needing to be driven to the next town north.
Okay, so that's the thing. So there was a lot going on here that I wanted to talk about, but really the narrative is moving us toward more we're just telling the story, which is fine. And that is that. So I went to get the quarter for our cart back at Aldi because 25 cents is 25 cents, or at least it used to be. And so I came back with that. I gave him all the rest of the change that we had, but I kept quarter for me if I go to Aldi because that's how you get your cart back, and a quarter for Karen because that's how she gets her cart back. But when I'm coming back, here's what I hear. What do I hear you guys say? Can you so
Oh,
he can you
oh yeah. While
drive
he's
he
getting the quarters, the guy comes up to me and says, "Can your husband drive me to Lake City?" I'm like,
and I have to tell you that when I was coming out of the building I was coming out of before that, and I saw him, two things went through my head. I do not feel like ignoring this guy.
and so
And if I can help him, I will. Except number two, after we get him some food, that's it. Nothing. Because in my head, it's like the person's going to ask you to take them somewhere. Then they're going to ask you to do this other thing.
it's another and another and another.
And
And
I,
so I
I,
said
I
to him, "You
was
have to
dead set
ask."
against it, except we
I
did
said,
some
"Well, you have to ask
shopping.
him." And
Yeah. And by the time I got back, I wasn't really in the mood to say no. I felt safe around the guy. I could be wrong.
so when the guy goes back to get the quarter, I say, "Jim, I'll follow you. Just take him to Alachua." He just wanted to get one town north.
Just one town
So I
north.
did.
So
I
we did.
followed him.
Yeah, she followed me. And I can understand that. You never know what a person's going to do. You never know what I would do if I was out on the street for months, you know. That's I mean that's the story. That's the
Yeah.
narrative portion of it. To me, the other part was like what you said. We
But we'll
don't
never know
we
what his real story is.
we average wealth, maybe middle class people do not have much power to help these people unless our tax money were being used to help these people, but it's not. It's being used to bolster corporations when they're not doing well
To
and all this other
funnel
crap.
money up to the 1%.
Yeah,
It's all
there's a
funneling
vacuum
money.
cleaner at the top,
Yeah.
and they siphon up our tax money.
So all we
Um,
can do is little random acts of kindness, I guess,
yeah, and
at
this is
this
really
point.
random. This is not a normal thing for me to do. I knew I would do it one day, because I know just giving somebody like a $5 bill or a $12 bill or a $10 bill, that could be good, but it could also be a liability. Because if I think about it, if I were homeless, I would sometimes wonder what kind of money some of my homeless friends have, or the people around, and I
Yeah.
would like, maybe that's an easier way to get money is just to
But the
wait.
guy needed, he needed a salty meat on a bread is what he really needed because
He needed
he was
carbs and he needed
when we were in
sodium,
line,
and
his hands
his
started
hands
to
were
shake.
shaking. And it's not just the diabetes, probably it's also the malnutrition and what do you call
It
that
could
stuff?
be
Dehydration.
detoxification too.
Well, that's true because people do drink. That's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess I'm not really articulate about what I'm saying, but this is so much easier if done in an organized um, and corporate manner. Corporate meaning a certain body, being the body of our government, using our tax money to keep people from being on the streets. Because once you've got people off the streets with an address, it's less worry for them and it's less worry for anybody who is worried about them. And it's less worry for anybody who feels creepy when they see someone begging on the streets or asleep on a bench. Um, and to expect charities and tiny little municipalities to figure out how to work all this stuff together, that is more expensive and less effective.
Yeah. And
Um,
if each one of these people had a place where
mhm.
they belonged,
Yeah,
where they were part of a community,
yeah. Where they'd
and
see
if
the same people
we
every day.
embraced every single citizen of the United States as part of our community,
Yeah, yeah.
we wouldn't be perpetrating injustices where they don't feel safe sleeping. I mean, that guy probably, my hunch about
Hmm.
this guy
Hmm.
was either he just recently got out of jail or was a regular homeless guy who the police got tired of in Gainesville and he just thought he would hop to the next town and start taking advantage of the good nature of churches up in Alachua.
That's another thing. Speaking of traveling and being outside all the time, So this is something, by the way, that doesn't have to happen. Not only does this happen to people like him, but a lot of people have to burn a lot more money and energy traveling than we need to. We may have a railway start coming through our town for passengers again, and that would be great because it's cheaper to
Yeah.
travel by train, and
So if he
also
really had to get to his family up in Tallahassee,
that would have
he
been a
could.
thing, you know.
But I don't know if he really did.
We don't know, but
Yeah.
again, if somebody's out on the streets wearing, clothes that are, like overworn, there's a reason. I don't need to know their true story. I need to know whatever they want to tell me to get what they think they need that day. I wouldn't give them money I wouldn't give them drugs. I would give money, and I wouldn't care what they spent it on. But the point is, there's just no room to judge. Um, I mentioned he was African American because that's additional data that matters, because they're going to be the ones less likely to have someone say, "Yeah, I'll let you in my car."
And the
It,
chances of him having been in jail were probably greater.
right,
And maybe put in
whether he
jail.
committed a crime or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he may have. But I've committed crimes, baby. In fact, that's what we're going to do after this. We're going to go pull some crimes, man, because it's freaking Saturday, man.
He's joking.
Mostly. Okay, so anyway, but I had something else brilliant to say about it. Well, so anyway, it would be a lot easier on all of us if some of the services that actually helped unhoused people, a lot of those would actually help us too.
Yeah,
You
why do
know?
we have to have like everything is concentrated at Grace Marketplace or everything is concentrated
Right, right.
at St. Francis House? Why couldn't every single community,
For the
like
millions of international
Plantation
people,
even,
yeah,
has just like a little shed. It's a one bedroom shed and
yeah,
a one homeless person per every so many square acres
right.
in the town, no matter who and and no matter how rich the town is. And that way, maybe somebody would say, "Hey, can you come cut my grass?"
And for all the millions of you that are listening internationally to this video, because I know, like and subscribe. But what I was going to say is, Grace Marketplace and St. Francis House are kind of what you think they are. One of them was a homeless community that was organized by a homeless shelter, I think partly through the municipal funds. But then St. Francis House is more church based and that
It's a
kind of thing.
soup kitchen.
And it's a soup kitchen, yeah. And it's not. That's right. It's not.
And they
They
made
may have a shelter. They might. I'm not sure they do though. They're just a
and then
kitchenette.
they set rules limiting how many people can go
Can
through the soup kitchen
be
per day.
there. I mean, if you want to, yeah. So I'm, I'm, I feel powerless. Uh, I feel powerless because I really earnestly have come to my beliefs about the economy. Honestly, I didn't say, "Hey, I'd like to have these ideals where we give handouts to people." I never.
So can I put a question out there? And I don't know the answer to the question,
What?
but how can we help people like this? I mean, what would you
Well,
do?
that's what I'm saying. I feel powerless because and that's why we're speaking here to all y'all millions. And stop subscribing so much because it's getting too much overflow and all that stuff. So anyway, um, um, the power is in an organized effort, and where the funding goes through just a few channels, like, say, a government, not 15 million corporations and their benevolent foundations, and 15 million churches and 15 million philanthropic organizations.
Bunch of talking heads is what they are
Exactly, where money's burnt off to pay these people.
to
Charity
advertise.
people that work in charities have to pay for advertising, but they have a board of directors that gets paid good freaking money. They make wealth off of saying they're doing charity, and they do some charity and they get like this much wealth. You see my hands? So if you put it through the government where we get to vote people in and out based on how they use our money, um, we can feed, house, clothe, and give health care to a lot more people. Let's take it one step up. What about all those people who have houses, have jobs, and all of this, and still can't get nutritional food in this country, in this town? They can't necessarily get reliable transportation, and they can't get health care without losing all of their savings or whatever if they have the ability. And then I guess finally, wages are not keeping up with expenses. They never were because they've been suppressed, in my opinion, somehow. I don't know how to explain that stuff. But the point is, if the cost of living doesn't go up with inflation, and if there aren't services to help people, and if tax money isn't given back to the people in terms of refunds, but basically really in services that it takes brains, organization, and people to run, which makes jobs, um, a lot we would have much fewer problems. I'm sure there'd be some homeless people here and there.
And here's a question: would
Yeah.
you, if somebody put a little house, a little tiny house in your neighborhood for just one family or one couple to live in,
Hmm.
would you say not in my backyard?
Right. 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 Because one of the most effective programs is basically to build
Community.
all levels of costly housing. So expensive homes in the same neighborhoods as all these other homes. Some of
Just
them,
one.
yeah,
Just
right,
one.
exactly.
Not two.
That makes a huge difference.
We
Um,
have how many neighborhoods are in this town?
how
Probably
many? A lot of them.
hundreds of neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Thousands
they're
maybe.
building five. I did this in another video, but I guess so. What's how would you encapsulate this into like a small final set of sentences? Uh,
How would you include a homeless person in your community?
Yeah, I know. And my thing that I was thinking in my head was, you know what? If it wasn't for all the lack of resources and the racism and the classism that we have here, for all I know, I would have met this guy working where I work, like at my job, um, like yeah.
He was articulate. He was not a
He was
mental
no dumb.
health
He didn't. Yeah,
case.
no, he wasn't. He was no dummy either.
No.
You know. So yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of jobs in my life, and for all I know, I could have worked with him. Um, and so that's what I'm saying. This person does not need to be on the streets, but for the way our country's run and our world is run right now. Okay, we love you. That was gross. Bye bye. Peace. Wait, hang loose. No. I love you. Nope. Sign of the devil. Ah. Bye bye.